guys, welcome to my video on one of my absolute favorite species of snakes, one of my favorite reptiles in general, sunbeam snakes. So these guys are part of the genus known as Xenopeltis. Today I'm going to be focusing on Xenopeltis unicolor, which is the more common of the two animals belonging to the Xenopeltis genus that exist. But typically, if you see these guys in the pet trade, it's going to be one of these and not one of the other ones. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. Now these guys originate from Southeast Asia and some parts of Indonesia, if I remember correctly. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, or if you've done your own research, I'm more than happy to see those comments below. So today I'm just going to be talking a little bit about why they're some of my absolute favorites, and their care, and ultimately whether or not I think that you should get one. So the vast majority of these guys, really all of these guys, are going to be wild caught. If you don't know what wild caught is, it means that animals are field collected from their native lands, whatever they are, and then they are imported into the US or wherever you live, and into the pet trade. There are so many debatable subcategories into that conversation, but today we're just going to be focusing on what pertains to the sunbeam snake and the aspects of it being wild caught. So typically, because these guys are so uncommon, I guess, in the pet trade, essentially all of them are going to be wild caught. And so if you're thinking about getting a sunbeam snake, you definitely want to pause for a moment and consider your stance on whether or not you would be okay with accepting a wild caught animal into your personal collection. There are pros and cons. That's a different video, and I'm sure there are tons out there that would help you make that decision. This video isn't going to cover all of those aspects of that controversial topic, but as far as sunbeam snakes go, because they are so difficult to breed, and by difficult I mean I don't know of a single sunbeam snake breeder out there, all of them are going to be wild caught or at least captive born, meaning that there have been a few select people who have received females that have been imported in and are already gravid and have laid eggs, and then perhaps they successfully hatch those eggs. I mean, even in those scenarios, it's really uncommon that those eggs would even hatch, just because we are so new to figuring out what their husbandry needs are that we haven't even got to the incubation needs. So that being said, if you're considering a sunbeam snake, you need to ask yourself if you are okay with keeping an animal that is taken from the wild and then brought into the pet trade. So some of the things that can help make that decision for you are considering things like many wild-caught animals come in with parasites, whether those are internal parasites or external parasites like mites, which most of us are familiar with. That being said, you need to also ask yourself, should you need to take your animal to the vet? Those are my chinchillas, sorry. Should you need to take your animal to the vet, are you okay with knowing that there's an increased risk for needing to do so because your animal is wild caught? Although sunbeam snakes are not nearly as common in the pet trade so far, they are gaining notice and popularity because of things like social media, because of their scale glow and their natural iridescence. These guys, each and every single scale is essentially like its own prism, reflecting and refracting light. So, let me see if I can get you guys a close-up of Paula, her scales. So, hopefully my camera is picking that up. But sunbeam snakes are so named because of that absolutely incredible iridescence that just radiates off of their entire body. There's not a part of Paua that won't refract the light. and create this amazing rainbow. So hopefully you guys can see that. So one of my favorite parts about these guys actually has nothing to do with the scales. It's to do with their faces. I call her pancake face all the time because her face is essentially like a little spade or a little shovel, right? It's almost completely flat so that she can burrow beneath dirt and other substrates. Even their eyes are actually more sunken into their heads to obviously help protect them as they burrow. But they're like little shovels, much in the same way that hognoses are without the upturned snout. But their faces are flat so that they can just shove their head at a moment's notice underneath substrate and escape predators. As far as care goes for these guys, one of the main reasons I was interested in getting a sunbeam snake is because being so little kept in the reptile community, we're really still learning a lot about what their care needs even look like and what they best thrive off of. I keep Paua in a plastic tub with fewer ventilation holes because one of the most significant needs of a sunbeam snake that we are familiar with is their need for incredibly high humidity. In the wild, these guys are going to be living in such damp, moist dirt that there will often be like pools of water, like marshes. So these guys, if you use, for instance, a substrate that does not retain humidity well, something like, well, you can't use paper towels or craft paper at all. You can't do it. No newspaper, nothing. Or things like aspen, those substrates are not approved for sunbeam snakes at all. They just simply cannot retain the humidity needs that a sunbeam snake needs. Even if you're using a humid hide, it can't do it. Sunbeam snakes need like 90 to 100% humidity as adults. That means they have to have a wet environment at all times. In every aspect of their enclosure, it needs to be moist. If they don't, these guys will very quickly dehydrate and die, which is also something they're more prone to do because they are wild caught, and because another thing we know about sunbeam snakes is they are extremely prone to stress. These guys spend almost all of their lives underneath dirt and soil. These guys are also, just being so multicolored, they're going to be more susceptible to predation in the wild, which is why, again, they spend almost all of their time buried beneath substrate. So as far as enclosures go, if you're choosing a tub, which if you're keeping one of these guys, you're going to be using a tub, a plastic tub with few ventilation holes. So that being said, when you set up a tub, a plastic bin for these guys, because that is absolutely what you're going to be using if you're going to keep a sunbeam snake successfully long term, you don't need to worry about a bin that has height. In fact, height is not important at all. The only important aspect about height in relation to plastic bins is that you need to make sure you have several inches height of substrate. So what kind of substrates do you use? Really, the only kinds of substrate that you can really use for these guys is going to be something like Eco Earth or Reptile, any sort of coconut husk, something that's going to really suck in water and hold it over time. Something that you don't need to mist every single day because it's going to stay so packed full of humidity by itself. Personally, my preference with Paua is I like to use a mixture of Eco Earth and Reptile, but also if you're going to just pick one of those or a similar product, either of those works just fine. These guys will create natural tunnels underneath their substrate, and again, they'll almost never emerge. So on that note, if they never emerge, how are you ever going to see your snake? You're not. Until you take it out for handling. With that, I know these guys are gorgeous. That's one of the reasons that across social media platforms they are gaining such speedy popularity that there are suddenly tons of people who want them who have even never had prior reptile experience at all. But you can't handle them very often. I only check on Paua maybe once a week. Like maybe. And when I say check on her, I mean I lift open the lid of her bin, make sure she's alive, and refresh any water or spot clean any poop or urate, and then I close it and I put it back. I only ever get Paua out maybe every other week, so maybe twice a month, and that's it. And for a lot of people, that's just not even near close enough. A lot of people, when you first bring home a reptile, you're so excited, you want to hold them every day, sometimes multiple times a day, and with these guys, you can't do that. You have to restrain yourself, gorgeous though they are, because these guys are incredibly prone to stress. And when I say stress, I don't mean just the kind of stress that's going to throw them off feed for a couple weeks. I mean the kind of stress levels where they die. So, on the note of throwing them off feed, what do these guys eat? Well, again, going off of the very limited research that's available online so far, and my own personal experience, these guys in captivity will eat rodents for you. Paua, when I first got her, her first meals with me were large mice. She could comfortably eat about 2 at her size, and she is not a large sunbeam snake. She is full grown. Well, she's an adult. She could grow more, but she's, like, there's no reason for me to anticipate needing to upgrade her prey size, basically. From there, again, I fed her rats. She goes for live more enthusiastically, but she, you guys, chinchillas. She goes for live more enthusiastically, but she will take frozen thawed for me, which is awesome, because if you're going to have an issue feed-wise with these guys, it's probably going to be live versus frozen thawed. Obviously in the wild, there is no such thing as frozen. So, with that being said, these guys are opportunistic feeders in that they will accept a variety of prey. So in the wild, they could eat things like other snakes, small toads, rodents, or one of Paua's other favorites is day-old chicks. So they will also eat birds, which are, again, readily available from different rodent and prey vendors online. So you've seen a sunbeam snake on Instagram or Facebook or some other social media platform, and now you're thinking, not only do I want a pet snake, because it's so beautiful, how does anything have that many colors all at once on its body? Your mind is blown. Not only are you thinking about getting a pet snake, you're thinking, where can I get one of these? They are technically available online, all wild caught, as I said earlier. But now you have to ask, should you get one? My answer is probably not yet. So, these guys are not a beginner snake. Not at all. If you're a brand new reptile keeper, do yourself a favor, do the snake a favor, and gain a little experience, right? Start off with something that is easier and more commonly accepted as an easier type of snake to keep. Something like a corn snake or a ball python or a king snake, a garter snake. There's so many other beautiful snakes to choose from to be your first snake or reptile. This is not it. These guys have such specific care requirements, and so few of them, being wild caught and imported, really thrive in the pet trade anyways. There are so many reports out of the few that exist that talk about, my sunbeam snake only lasted 6 months for me. What did I do wrong, or what could I have done differently? And the fact is we're still learning. And so my answer to should I get one or not is, if you are an experienced reptile keeper, or you have at least a decent bit of experience under your belt, then sure. But you need to ask yourself why you want to get one. Do you want to get one because they look like they're super popular all of a sudden? Or do you want to get one so that you can take it out all the time and be taking pictures of it? If yes, then these guys are not for you. They're just not. They're not going to thrive. In fact, the stress of doing so could easily kill them. If, however, you're someone like me who is just really intrigued by the idea of being able to help contribute any sort of information or experience to the reptile community as a whole as to, you know, what techniques worked best for me in terms of getting Pow to thrive, get her to eat regularly, keep her from getting respiratory infections or other illnesses. Maybe even one day help contribute to how to breed these guys successfully in captivity. If that's your motivation and you have a decent bit of experience, then I say, yeah, this could definitely be a good snake for you. As long as you are confident in your ability to properly provide for their husbandry needs and you've done plenty of research, then this could totally be the snake for you. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video on sunbeam snakes and that maybe you learned something new that you didn't know before, or maybe that you saw something that helped you to process the question of should you get one or maybe should you wait. If you're interested in seeing more of this beautiful girl, you can follow me on Instagram at @TheVansicleHertz. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope you subscribe. If you enjoyed today's video, I have other videos that I've made on beginner snakes, and I always try to come out with new videos on different species of animals that I keep, because I'm a fan of only making videos on animals that I've personally had experience working with. But I would really appreciate that if you guys enjoyed this video, you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And tune in next time for our next video.